Welcome to the Love Unplugged podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Frigon. You may know me from Project Love, where we focus on operational excellence, but here we go deeper. We're your go-to for raw, empowering conversations on entrepreneurship and stepping into your CEO role with love and confidence. Each week, we'll explore everything from mindset shifts, leadership, optimal wellness, to efficient systems, all within a community of visionary women like you. Ready to get real about building a business and life you love? Hit subscribe and let's start this transformative journey together. Hello, loves. Today I am joined by the lovely Angela Capeles. Angela is a marketing strategist, empathetic leader, entrepreneur, doctoral candidate, and DEIJ advocate, which we'll talk about what that is afterwards. But she is the founder of Capales Agency, a woman-owned boutique creative agency that specializes in building iconic and resilient brands through intentional branding and marketing initiatives. As a professor at Penn State and Simmons University, and with over 9 years of international experience working with notable brands such as Carolina Herrera, Tobin Centers, Marriott International, Hilton Hotels, and more, her mission is to empower strong, resilient brands with intentional branding and marketing all across the United States and Latin America, while also advocating for the diversity, equity, and inclusion within the workspace. So welcome, Angela. I am so excited to have you join me on the podcast. I know we've chatted through an Instagram Live, but I just had to take the conversation deeper. And I'm so excited to welcome you as my guest on the show. But before we dive into your story and your expertise, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about you personally for those that don't know you yet.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. We definitely had a great conversation going the other day, so this is perfect. Like you said, my name is Angela Capeles. I'm a proud Puerto Rican. We call it Boricua here. And I've been in the world of marketing and advertising and PR for about 10 years now. It's been a great journey. I'm a brand obsessed strategist. I say that a lot, but I really am. So everything brand related, it's my jam. We love really helping people with their stories. How can we make sure to take them to the next level? So a little bit about me. Like I said, I'm born and raised in Puerto Rico. I currently live in Pennsylvania since 2015. In Puerto Rico, I studied at the University of Puerto Rico main campus, and I majored in journalism and foreign languages. So I was always inspired by communications and stories and how we can help people be able to craft those narratives in a really compelling way. So that's where my love for communication started. When I was really young, I was also involved in a lot of the nonprofit world and a lot of community impact, and it was all around stories. And I was in speech groups or clubs and things like that. So also in the arts, all of those things I think inspired me to slowly get into communication. So major in communications. I worked in Puerto Rico for one of the top public relations firms, Nelly Cruz and Associates, and I had an amazing mentor. Her name is Nelly Cruz. She is amazing at what she does. And under her wing, I started to work in PR. A lot of luxury brands in Puerto Rico. I work on the opening of the Maleficent one, which is one of our top luxury malls in Puerto Rico. So that's how everything started. But I always wanted to learn a little bit more and take things to the next level. So I applied for grad school. I moved to Pennsylvania, and I've been here in PA ever since. But that's a little bit about me and kind of like how things started for me. I love arts and music. We have a lot of clients in that industry. So in terms of things that I do for fun, definitely around arts and food. Does that answer your question? Is that a good start?
Absolutely. So I'm just going to pause real quick, and I'm going to edit this piece out. But the audio is kind of like echoing and kind of going in and out a little bit. I just didn't want to keep going and then have the whole episode like that.
Let's see. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you better now.
Is it better now? Okay.
Maybe kind of say like a whole sentence. Let's just see what that's like.
Angela Capeles, can you hear me well? Is it working? Yes. Perfect. Okay.
All right. So we're just going to pause for a second, then I'm going to ask you the next question.
Okay.
All right, so let's start at the very beginning. What were you doing before you started this business? Were you in school for something specific? Did you have a dream about, going down the corporate path, or was it always, something in your mind that you wanted to do is become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I always had that entrepreneurial spirit in me. I was very independent. I wanted to do things differently. And I think from the beginning, I kind of like had those ideas. But I did had an amazing mentor in Puerto Rico where I told you I work in the PR firm. And I saw her running her firm. She's a badass. She's amazing at what she does. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love that. I love that she had a great work-life balance. She was very present with her family. She used to travel a lot, and then she was, running all of these amazing brands. And I learned so much from her, and I was like, I absolutely want to do that in my life. I started in PR essentially with her, and my background is in journalism, but my professional experience starting to move to marketing and branding and PR. And it's essentially, it's all communications. It's all about telling a story to just emphasize different aspects of that story or use different tactics. So I guess, throughout my experience in those areas, I fell in love with branding. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love not only, the storytelling element in terms of like the story and the words and the tone of voice, but I also love the visual component of like, okay, how can we make sure that these two things look consistent? And then how we make sure that those two things and we add the client experience is also consistent. So I became obsessed. So I started, like I said, in PR in Puerto Rico. And then I'm also a little bit of a nerd. Like I love school, I love learning, and like how can we do things differently? So after my bachelor's, I started working on my master's in Penn State in communications. Then I started the PhD program. And throughout those experiences, I was still working. Once I graduated from my master's in 2017, I was having a rough time finding a job. And I was like, you know what? Like, they want to offer me really low salaries when I have amazing experience working with brands like Carolina Herrera and Hilton and Marriott and Sheets, the PA Department of State. And I was like, no. Like in Central PA, I don't know like your experience if you've been there, but it's not as diverse as other areas or cities in Pennsylvania. So I was like also experiencing some racism and like I thought that like as a woman of color, it was harder for me to get a seat at the table. So I was like, you know what? Like I've had the experience. I'm, a graduate student. I can do this. So that kind of like inspired me or pushed me in the direction to say, let's do this. Like I can do this. And that's how I started to build Capeles Agency in 2017. I did it full time for about 2 years. Then I was referred to build a communications department at a nonprofit in PA. And that was an amazing experience. I was like, yes, let me do that. But can you still allow me to have my agency on the side? And they were like, absolutely. It's no compete. So that was a great opportunity. So I would have a team, which gave me more management experience. I didn't have a lot of that. And then I kept building my agency on the side. And then throughout those, years, I also got referred to other creative agencies in the area to be their like manager for like branding and marketing or director of branding and marketing. And I was like, yes, let me do all of those things. They'll give me more exposure, I'll get to meet more people. I'll keep practicing, like management style and leadership styles and learning. And then I kept doing that on the side until about 2-ish years ago, the last agency that I was in, they closed down and they fired everyone. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then I was like, this is it. Like, I've been toying with the idea of going back full time on my own. And I was kind of like, sometimes in life you get comfortable and you sometimes like, you know what, let me do things as I'm doing them. And then you put your dreams or like your ideas of what you want your life to look like in the back burner. And I was like, it's now or never. So I said yes. I came back full time. I've been working on that transition. I think in the origins, it was more kind of like a freelance vibe. And the last 2-ish years, it's been more like, okay, this is like a full creative agency. We're a boutique. We operate with like a select group of clients, but our focus is, making sure that we do things differently and intentional within this industry that it's super saturated. So I think part of it is my upbringing and part of it is life experiences that kind of push you and you have to make a decision, am I going to build this or am I going to just do something else? So that was kind of like for me how Capeles Agency started.
I love that. And I love how you used opportunities that came up in the corporate space and whatnot to then
Hmm.
give you the skills that you needed to become a better entrepreneur, a better CEO in your own business. A lot of people, including myself, are just kind of like, they look at those opportunities a little bit like in a negative light because it's not, being a full-time entrepreneur, so it's like a distraction. It's kind of stepping back and, two steps back and whatnot. But actually, like, those experiences are just going to add more to your overall skill set as an entrepreneur. It's just going to make yourself better. So it's okay if you need to go down that road while you're building your own business, because it's just going to make you a better CEO at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Mm, so cool. And I love how life or fate just kind of like the universe gave you that nudge. They're like, nope, you've been saying you want this. It's time. Let's go. You're not going to do it yourself. I'm going to do it for you, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I had like all of these friends and people like, why are you still working for other people? And I was like, I don't know. Like it's the first time that someone in my family established a business. So I think like I was also, wow, like how do I do this? So I think it was the right time. Life gives you plenty of opportunities. And I think I had said, maybe later. And then it was just like, it's now or never. So I think life, it's funny and it's also great because it pushes us out of our comfort zones more than once.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I have such a similar story to that where I was kind of procrastinating it and stuff like that. And then again, I got let go. My role wasn't required anymore. And it was what I wanted the entire time. And it was a little bit of a too long of a delay. And I was like, I probably like would have made it like last longer than I should have if that wouldn't have happened, to be honest.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm loving
So
that you actually went for it.
that is happening. But let's talk about your agency. So you've successfully scaled your agency since inception. Can we talk about, some of the nitty-gritty details that come along with that, key decisions that contributed to your growth over the years?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the top things that contributed to my growth is, I've had great experiences working at other spaces. I learned the good things that they did and that I wanted to replicate in my own way, and the things that I did not want to do whatsoever. And I think those learning from those experiences allow you to actually take more intentional steps for the growth of your business. Some of the things that have helped me, we do branding and marketing. We say Capeles Agency, this is where creativity meets purpose. We want to be very intentional with the work that we do so that we can amplify voices and take people seriously and help them feel confident. So, in part of that growth is recognizing that I cannot do things alone. And that means that I need to bring a team. So, like, for projects, I can no longer do it all. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So part of the growth has been possible due to having a great collaborative space with other creative people that I admire and they're like so smart at what they do. So I think that's one thing. The second thing, it's like I'm always learning. I want to make sure that I know what are the top trends, how can we do things differently. I think three, listening, active listening to your clients' needs. And also, as you audit your business, what does your business require? Sometimes recognizing that maybe I was, holding things up and I shouldn't have. And that was kind of like setting me back. So, learning those things helped me take it to the next level. I think earlier I mentioned starting as a freelancer and then moving as an agency founder and CEO. That mindset, and I think we touched on that in the live session that we did a few weeks ago, but that was really hard and something that actually helped me grow more sustainably and consistently. Because before I was just like, okay, I'll get this project, but now it's just like, no, like I need to think about the business as a business structure, and I'm responsible for people's, income and I'm responsible for people's structure. So how can I make sure that I organize things in a way that allow for the business to grow, for people to grow, and for me to grow as well? So I think those things are really, really important. Also having a great network of people that can push you, hold you accountable, but also tap into that network and having, your community be your advocates and champions. I think the majority of the clients that we've gotten, probably over 90% of our client base, it's through referrals. And that's amazing. Like we haven't really pushed a lot of money behind marketing. We do, but not a lot of money. It's more organic type of work because we surround ourselves by our community. We like to work with people that we believe in and their products or services. And it's very reciprocal, which I think has contributed as well for that continuous growth.
That's so good. Definitely take notes here. If you need to pause, I highly recommend it. Those were all great takeaways that are definitely going to help you continue that momentum in your growth. Now, your leadership style. So, this is, like you mentioned, something that comes along with building out a team, and it's very much different than being a solo entrepreneur within your business. So, let's talk about how your leadership style evolved as you built out a team, and what were some pivotal moments that helped you in becoming the CEO that you are today.
Yeah, I think I've definitely grown so much in my leadership style. I still have a long way to go. There's always things that we can do differently. I think I started more in the mindset, okay, let's do it together. Like, how can we do this? And then it was more of like me giving tasks and seeing people, respond to it. And it was a little bit less of a conversation. And I think my experience working in other spaces allowed me to see, okay, these are the things that I totally hate about, leadership and, my own experiences with previous boss. And I was like, I will never want to do this. And then I was trying to start to mimic the things that I did wanted to receive or the things that I've received from like great boss. So I think having clear what you want to do and what you don't want to do, it's a great first step. So always look through your own experiences. Like where were these, positions that I've been in that I felt the most acknowledged and seen and respected or valued. And I wanted to make sure that I continue to have that top of mind with everyone that I interact from my team or like clients as well. I want them to feel seen and heard. I'm not a micromanager at all. I hate that. I'm, hiring you because I trust you and your expertise to do the things that you're great at. And I should not micromanage at all. So I'm not that person. I will let you know, hey, this is what we're doing. What are some of your ideas? I like to do like brainstorming sessions and like more collaborative approach because and that's something that I've learned throughout life. You cannot do things alone. We think that we can do it all. We cannot. We always have a gap, a bias. So I like to be super open. I'm really flexible. We all have to get it work done and we have a responsibility to our clients, but I do like to be very flexible. I like to have like 360 feedback in meetings or like reviews so that like not only I'm reviewing your work and giving you feedback, you can also give me feedback. Sometimes like you get into the busy day to day and then like I had like a meeting a few weeks ago with one of my interns and she was like, I would have liked in the last task that you gave me a little bit more feedback, maybe not have it like a day later. Maybe I wanted it immediately. And I was like, oh, that's really good to know. Or maybe send her a message that I was like, hey, I'm in between meetings. I'll review this in this time so that she wouldn't feel like anxious that she did something wrong. So I think as you go, you learn how people prefer their styles. Now I have like a kind of like onboarding questionnaire that I go through with each person, like at the beginning of our time together. That is like, how do you like to receive feedback? How can I be a better, communicator? What makes you feel, confident? Do you like when I give you a public shout out that you did amazing, or do you want me to do that privately? So I think my leadership style has, grown like over time, but it's also because I try to be very intentional. We utilize a lot of equity center work in the work that we do. So how can I implement that here? I also have, a few years of therapy experience, and I think those have been great years that I've been able to learn some skills that I can include to use with my team or clients. So I think the leadership style is one that fosters, communication and innovation. Actually, I took a master class about 2 weeks ago with Duncan Wardle, I think it is how it's pronounced. He was the former head of innovation at Disney. And he was talking about how can you foster a culture of inclusivity and diversity and innovation And it was so fun because a lot of the things that he mentioned sometimes feel like common sense, like just block some time to think and have like space for them to be themselves. And how can you embed some of that and be a little bit more fun and creative? And I think in the work that we do, it doesn't matter the industry, we're so serious and so intense of like, this needs to be perfect and the client needs to hear this and it has to be by this day. And I want it to look like this. And sometimes just have fun with your team. Like that's how the great ideas come. So he was introducing a lot of things that I want to include now moving forward that come from like improv exercises like yes and keep building into each other's ideas. And that would allow for more consistent and like warm internal culture. So I think I want to continue to work in a leadership style that allows that kind of like freedom and kind of like playfulness that we often forget as adults.
I love that. I love how you've created that onboarding, obviously, to cater or tailor your approach with that individual to how they want to be nurtured as a team member and whatnot. This 360 reviews, not a lot of people do that. That is so important
Mhm.
because it can't just be a one-way street, right? Like that's how you're going to use information to continue developing yourself as a leader. So I love that you've incorporated that, and I'm definitely going to check out that Duncan thing because I definitely want to hear what he has to say in regards to that. Team is such a critical aspect of your business. They will either make or break your business. And it's not something that you should just be like handled offside. It's something that's like a really big part of your role as a CEO and leader is to make sure that you are nurturing that team and giving them or empowering them with the tools and the skill sets and like the knowledge and all that type of stuff to be able to do their roles separately without your involvement when needed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so leading a business, especially one that challenges industry norms, which I think marketing does, branding, PR, all that type of stuff does on a consistent basis, comes with pressures and a lot of stress. So, what practices do you use to manage those stress levels to maintain your well-being on all the different levels, like mindset, emotional, spiritual, and whatnot?
Yeah, that's a great question. I include different practices, but they're all focusing on myself. I think journey and growth. And I think those really help me. I do morning walks every day at 7 in the morning, typically for about 30 minutes. That helps me. It's my time. I don't think about anything else other than looking at the sky, thinking through my day. How am I feeling? Being a little bit more intentional and present in that moment. It's a great thing for me to kind of like relieve stress. And I think one of the latest things that I've also added over the last 2-ish years, it's been meditation. I had a pretty major accident about 3 years ago, and some of the things that I've been using to be a little bit more present and like process things better, it's been meditation. It's something that it's been great, a great addition to the business, specifically because it allows you to be more present, to think, and to trust yourself in the process. I think sometimes we're just like go, 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 that we forget to stop, prioritize, think about your goals, what you're feeling, your intuition. Sometimes we do not give it enough credit, and like for business decisions, it should be one of the core reasons of why you make a decision or not. So I think that's also been super helpful. But yeah, things that involve, arts and, relaxation. I get monthly massages. I try to travel as much as I can to kind of like be inspired and do things differently as well. But I think as a founder, you're going to have to gravitate towards the things that make you feel, at ease, more comfortable and confident, and to be able to shut off your brain. I think that's one of the hardest things as an entrepreneur or business owners. Is like you're always like thinking in like 10 months from now, 5 months from now. And, you need to find ways in which you're able to fully unplug.
Those are such great activities and practices that you do, and I 100% agree with that. Now, let's dive into your expertise. So, your agency places a significant emphasis on empathy-led branding. Can you explain what exactly is empathy when it comes to branding and why it's so crucial for today's brands?
Yeah, absolutely. We use a lot empathy or equity center work
but that's essentially something that we have at the core. It starts by prioritizing people and their experiences. When we're like working in marketing and advertising, oftentimes we believe that we know what's best for the end user or the communities that we're impacting. And sometimes that's not true. If you haven't had those experiences, you're not going to be able to relate. So empathy work in branding and marketing just means that you're recognizing that the work that you do, whether that's design, copywriting, customer journey, or workflow, it all impacts a person. And every person comes to work or to buy your product or service, or they show up, with their own stories and challenges and backgrounds. So what we mean by empathy is essentially, trying to foster an environment in this world of branding and marketing that prioritizes people and their feelings and their experiences, because we believe that the best brands are the ones that can step into their customers' shoes and can anticipate their needs or find ways to make them feel seen and acknowledged, especially when we're working with like underrepresented communities. Some of our clients in the US, they're trying to, walk the talk, but it's hard when they don't have representation in-house. So how can you have those conversations, or how can you bring, qualified people from like these different communities to be able to mentor you and guide you to ensure that the experiences that you're creating or the services or the content that it's out there feels authentic and genuine.
I love that. And that's definitely something that we all need to work on so much more. And I love that it's kind of like a human first approach. You know what I mean? Like taking a little bit of the business out of it and making it more personal, and really just getting to the heart and soul of the people that we're trying to attract and trying to market to and whatnot. So that's just so fantastic. Now let's talk
Absolutely.
about marketing strategies that you have for your business that you've developed or you've adopted into your practice that set your clients apart in their industries.
Yeah, there's plenty of marketing strategies out there of what people can do, but we always prioritize leading with authenticity and transparency. The best brands and the top marketing trends, it's all about your specific story. Like, what's your competitive advantage or your unique value or selling proposition? So we always recommend to start there, just because everything that we create, the content will be better in terms of like how it will be received by their communities. We also talk about content. Like, content is really important. Yes, paid ads, it's important, but organic content is also really important. So how can you have conversations with your community and engage with them? Some of the top trends that we have right now, it has to be like short form, video content, influencer campaigns, or like collaborations. So those things are really important. Earned media, PR. So how can we continue to leverage their story and their voice and connect with the right people at the right time in the right channel? So that's also really important in terms of advertising, making sure that you're connecting with the people that you actually are serving, not just, I want to have a billboard here because I feel like it. That's just probably not the best, marketing tactic for where you really want or your goals. So we always like to make sure that before we set up a marketing campaign or like specific trends or practices that they should be implementing, we always want to make sure that it makes sense for where they want to get. So I think it doesn't matter what the marketing strategy is, just making sure that it's authentic and transparent, making sure that the client experience throughout all of the brand touch points, it's consistent and intentional. What are you giving your clients? From like that onboarding up until the offboarding process, it's also really important. Transparency and accountability, it's really important. It doesn't feel like a marketing tactic, but it really is. People want to make sure that these brands walk the talk and they have like a commitment to better serve those communities. So I think those would be my top ones. And then if we want to talk about specific, things that you can do, of course, we can talk about social media game and, the best trends are like when you should be posting and what, but it doesn't matter what the content is. It should prioritize the authenticity of the brand just so that we can preserve that integrity.
I love that. That's so true. And I love that you mentioned, does your strategy or where you're trying to be aligned with where your clients are or where you're wanting to go. I feel like people kind of get a little bit lost in that, oh, this person's doing that, so that's what I should be doing. But really, is it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about personal brands.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to dive into this a little bit with you because it is becoming more of a well-known thing that people are talking more and more about. It's definitely something that I want to work on next. So I'd love to learn, what exactly is a personal brand? When should we start looking at implementing one or working on it? And is it really like crucial for the next stage of your business development?
Yes, that's a great question. Yeah, personal brand is kind of like the new buzzword, but it's so important. First, I want to get started to say that everyone has a personal brand. Like whether you know it or whether you've been working on it intentionally or not, you already have a brand. Your brand is just like an extension of who you are, how you portray yourself, how you dress, how you speak, the places that you engage with, or at, the people that you hang out with. So every single thing that you do is already part of your brand, what you like, what you hate. So just recognizing that we all already have a personal brand, it's really important. The second step would be, now that you have realized that you have a brand, whether you like it or not, you have to decide what you want to do with it. If you have a business, it's going to be great. It's going to help you so much because there's a phrase that goes around that says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. They always want to know your why. And yes, the business is solving a unique challenge or opportunity within a community, but people really want to know why you came up with those ideas, why that's important to you. And the business could be a great, space for you to showcase, capabilities and, work case studies, trends, educational content, but like the personal brand that you have, it's going to be a great way to kind of like connect those two. And as you're merging those two things, it allows for more depth. People want to know, who you are, your backstory, what other things you like, how those make you unique, or how did you incorporate some of that into your business. I also tell everyone that like people, work with Capales Agency not because we have an agency. There's so many agencies in the world that probably do, different things or like some similar things, but it's about working with me as a founder and what their relationship with me is or how they like, my approach or my personality and the things that I do. So having a personal brand is definitely going to help you, continue to grow your business. It's going to help you grow your community as well. And I think it's going to also help you to not take things that seriously. Sometimes like in the business page or like social media accounts, we prioritize, very polished content and things like that. But in your personal brand, you can showcase a little bit more about what makes you unique, your personality. If you're traveling, like you can always choose carefully how much you want to share and how and why. But having that personal brand, it's going to be great because one, it helps you position yourself as a thought leader in the industry, but it allows you to be more human. Like we need to humanize our brands. And knowing that there's a human behind this project or service or company, it's going to be huge for having more meaningful connections with your audience.
That's so interesting. It's so interesting that you brought it up because like a lot of the product brands that I've purchased and have been like loyal fans of is because I've been so invested in the personal brand, the founder themselves, their story, their why, just all that type of stuff. And I found it really interesting that when a couple of brands that I've known have sold their business and new owners came into the play, I really disconnected from that brand entirely and just stopped purchasing their stuff for some without even thinking about it. It didn't connect anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So at what point or when should people maybe choose to not connect the two? You know what I mean? Like, is it when people are maybe considering to scale their business to be able to sell it that they should disconnect themselves from the business?
I think there's not going to be a 100% merge. I think you're not fully connected to your business. You're essentially an extension, or the business is an extension of yourself. I think that you should not fully separate them two. even if you're planning to sell your business down the line, because part of growing that business has been your investment. But I do think that everyone should take seriously working on their brand. Like, it doesn't matter if you have a personal business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're working in corporate, if you're working in nonprofit world, if you're a parent that stays at home, like, it doesn't matter what you do, you already have a brand. So I would say always work on your brand and prioritize that. Doesn't matter what you want to do down the line in terms of like, your career, but having a personal brand is going to help you, people take you seriously and like see the type of content that you put out, see what potential brand partnerships. So I think you shouldn't necessarily think about disconnecting them too. You should be transparent throughout the process and kind of like showcase, like maybe I'm moving into a new venture and like I'm closing, 10, 15 years of working with this, agency or company, and now I'm moving into the next step. How can I do that? Which again goes back to that authenticity part and transparency, like making sure that you share that with your audience so that they can feel part of the process, and maybe like your case, it doesn't feel as abrupt that like now I have another founder and like it's a different vibe. So that's why storytelling is so important. And those things allow for like conversations and people to get prepared for transitions in terms of brands. Like they don't always stay the same. Changes, happening all the time. It's very constant and consistent in this world.
Yeah, that's the only thing that is constant is change.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the rapid evolution of digital marketing, especially these days. I feel like there's been a big shift for 2024 in how things are marketed. Where do you see the future of marketing heading?
I think definitely using more AI. I know that's kind of like a hot topic now. People are like, oh my gosh, we're not going to have jobs. I totally disagree. I think that was a tool used by humans for humans with the idea of like making, us streamline processes or operations or like creative thinking. But I would say embrace AI and technology. Absolutely. Don't fear that it will take things from you. Just think about how you can use those things to make better impact or to like maximize your time in terms of operations, and then you can focus more on the creative work. So I would say just jump in, and adopt technology as much as you can, because it's here to help you. Things in the extreme always, have challenges and things that we can think about negatively, but I would say AI is definitely going to be bigger. Making sure that you're like connecting with your communities in a more intentional way. Like now we have all of these tools, like different apps, different like environments digitally that you can use to foster and nurture those relationships. So how can you do that in a better way? So yeah, I think the future of marketing is going to be more about community, even though we're connected more via digital means. It's about, listening to their needs. How can we pivot? Everyone is connected and want things automatically and quickly. So how can we do that without compromising in terms of the experience?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. People are probably going to want to work with you after this call or this interview. So I'd love for you to share, exactly what you have available to support your community with their marketing needs and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, we have Capales Agency, which is a creative boutique agency. We support clients in two different ways. On the agency side, it's more done for you services, whether it's like, brand audits for personal brands or professional commercial brands. We do branding, rebranding. We do like marketing strategy support. We have like design work and media production for like content creation. And then we have the other side, which is the educational coaching side, where I provide like training on how to do these things for yourself if you have a business, or if you have an agency and like you're wanting to take things to the next level, how can you do so? So we have that strategic advisory route that is kind of like one-on-one support with me, and then the agency side, which is more of like the creative work with the team. You can find us through our website or social media, capelesagency.com or at Capeles Agency. And then my Insta is Angela Capeles with 2 S at the end. And then I can, talk to you if you have any questions. We also do a lot of speaking engagement. So I always try to share that with the audience as well, so that they can learn a little bit more about what is it that we do and how they can level up their game and the marketing and branding world.
Amazing. Well, I've loved chatting with you today and on our Instagram Live in the past. I highly recommend that everyone tuning in today check you out online, follow you, because you share such incredible information, and I just love everything that you do. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for bearing through the tech little issues that we've experienced today. But I definitely think that this is just such a great episode for people to tune into and get so many insights from.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate your patience with the Wi-Fi. It's been raining here in Puerto Rico nonstop, so I'm sure it was my fault.
It's all good. Thank you for joining us today. Your presence truly elevates Love Unplugged into a home for freedom-driven women who aspire to be visionary CEOs. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd be honored if you'd take a moment to rate and review the show. Your feedback helps us bring more impactful conversations to our community. Let's continue to grow this empowering community together. Until next time.